All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Tzadi Daled, Maseches Eruvin. We left off at the bottom. We left at the bottom of Tzadi Gimel Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. We were discussing a case of if once something was mutter on Shabbos, and if there was some sort of circumstance that changed, let's say there were walls and some of the wall came down, whether it was mutter or not to continue, or kevan shehutra, since it was already permitted, hutra, it continues to be permitted. Or actually, it's also going to be a topic of the next Mishnah, which frequently it does that. You have a Gemara which you think is unrelated, to the next part. Then all of a sudden, usually a Mishnah is like a new, something completely new, but oftentimes it continues. So let's see what's going on. So Itamar, 3 lines from the bottom, Tzadi Gimel Beis, last one in the line. You have a wall between 2 chatzeros that fell down. So, right. So now you have a wall. Assumingly, you have 2 separate eruvin, one chatzer A, one chatzer B, and then the wall fell down in the middle. So now the question is, what do you do? Is it now one eruv? Can you still carry in the area where you were before? So Rav Omar Rav says you only have dalat amos. So obviously you can't carry from one chatzer to the other, and even in your chatzer where you're at, you can only carry up to dalat amos. Shmuel Omar, and Shmuel says, top of the page, each one can go ahead and carry up until where the previous border was. In other words, they still can carry throughout their own chatzir. However, they cannot go ahead and carry into the other chatzir because there was no eruv from before Shabbos that was, connected with them. So therefore, you can't connect the two, but you can still carry throughout according to Shmuel. That which Rav said, we can only carry dalat amos. He didn't say explicitly, rather he just people inferred it from a case. The Rav Shmuel have a yasi b'hau chatzer. The one time Rav Shmuel were sitting in chatzer nafal good the beini veini, and then the wall fell between them and I guess another chatzer. Amar lahu Shmuel shekoila galima nagiduba. Go ahead and take a shirt or something and hang it up there and put it where the previous wall that fell. And Hidrinu Rav Liape. Rav turned around. In other words, Rav didn't seem to approve. So l'chayra, right? What was the case? The wall fell down, and basically Shmuel was saying, "Okay, just put up another wall, and then we can continue to go ahead and carry." And by Rav turning his face, it appeared that he did not agree with that psak. So Shmuel, right? If you have any, if you have problems with just hanging your shirts, go ahead and take a belt and tie it, make a stronger wall. So that was the case. First of all, according to Shmuel, if Shmuel holds, like we just said, you can go ahead and carry throughout. Why did he say you have to put up anything? You should just be able to just go ahead and walk around. So Shmuel, he didn't do it for a mechitza at all. He didn't need to put up a wall because the truth is, right, one is not allowed to go ahead and make a mechitza on Shabbos, right? You can't construct a wall. So really, he just did it for like a privacy curtain, and therefore that was why he put it up. According to Rav, if he holds dal amos and he holds that hanging the wall, it doesn't do anything. So why wouldn't he tell him that you can't do it? So the answer is Asu the Shmuel Havi, because it was the city of Shmuel. And therefore, Rav didn't want to go ahead against the psak of Shmuel. So therefore, he basically sort of just turned his head in disapproval. So if that's the case, why did he turn around? Right? He should have just, since it's Shmuel's place, Shmuel wanted to put the mechitza, so let him put on the mechitza. So in order that people shouldn't think that he held like Shmuel. In other words, Rav held you only have dalat amos, and people see that if you put up a wall, people might assume that Rav held all you got to do is just put up a wall that he continue to carry throughout the chatzir. So therefore, Rav turned around to show his disagreement with Shmuel. Fine. Now Mishnah says.
So Rav doesn't hold this whole principle of kivat hutra. Rav didn't hold from that.
Correct, right? And it was only that it was Shmuel said, right? So Shmuel held kivat hutra, and Rav did not hold of that. All right, and we'll actually soon see there's another Mishnah later on which we talk about. So let's see this one. Chatzer shenifritza l'shis harabim. You have a chatzer that was open into there was connected to the Rishis Harabim, and a wall fell down. So hamachnis misaycha l'shisa yachid. Oh, misaycha l'saycha. If one who goes ahead and he carries from this Chatzer, which is now connected to Rishus Harabim, into another Rishus Hayachid, okay, or from another Rishus Hayachid into this Rishus Hayachid, which the wall fell down. Chayiv, Divi Rabbi Eliezer. According to Rabbi Eliezer, one is Chayiv. One is Chayiv in this case, because now since you had a Rishus Hayachid that was next to a Rishus Harabim and the wall fell down, so now it's basically part of the Rishus Harabim, and therefore if you go ahead and carry from another Chatzer into this Chatzer, one would be Chayiv, because normally one is not Chayiv to carry from a Rishus Hayachid to another Rishus Hayachid, even if there's no Eruv. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, you would be Chayiv here. Pater. Says the Chachamim, who actually discuss a different case, right? Very interesting that they're not talking about the same case, right? But the same concept, the same halacha is in place. So Chachamim say, even if you carry from this Rishus Hayachid, whose wall fell down, into the Rishus Harabim or backwards, right? This area of the Chatzer whose wall fell down is not considered to be like a Rishus HaYachid anymore. And it's not considered like a Rishus Harabim either, that if one carries from this Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus, it is only a Carmelist. It's not considered to be anything else. Fine, so that was Mishnah Machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer, who says the wall fell down, it's now part of the Rishus Harabim, and the Chachamim who hold, no, it's now a Carmelist, it's not really part of the Rishus Harabim just because the wall fell down to it. I Zakti Gemara of Rabbi Eliezer, Mishum Denifas of Rishus Harabim, Havli Rishus Harabim. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, just because a wall fell down from Rishus Hayachid, which connected to Rishus Harabim, and now it fell down, so now it's considered to be part of Rishus Harabim. So Gemara says, yes. And Rabbi Eliezer the time, Rabbi Eliezer goes, the Shitas of the Tani, we learn a Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Imer, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbim Shabaru Derech Le'asman, Ma Shabaru Baru. According to Rabbi Eliezer, if the Rabbim, they chose a path, right? The public started to use a certain path, that path becomes now like Rishus Harabim. So therefore, this Chatzer, if the Rabbim chose to go through it, right? Therefore, to take a shortcut or whatever it is, now it's considered to be a Rishus Harabim. So, Amy, is this so? We're only talking about a case of where there once upon a time was a shortcut through this yard, okay, and then the Rabbim basically used it. So since the Rabbim used it, that's the only case, not just anything the Rabbim goes to, but only if it was once upon a time, and then someone claimed it to be his, and then basically the elders said, no, this is always, the pace where people used to go ahead and walk through. And if you want to say, okay, we're talking about a case of where basically, right, that there used to be in this specific Chatzer, right, they used to have a path here, and then there was walled up. Now the wall came down, so now it goes back to Rishus Harabim. The machlokas is only there to where the mechitza is, right? So Rabbi Chanina said up until where where the wall, right, up until the wall is where the machlokas is. But everything else is not considered Rishus Harabim. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, who argues with Rabbi Chanina, it must be the entire area. So so let's say, no, it doesn't mean that the entire area is Rishus Harabim. Let's just say the place where the mechitza is the machlokes. In other words, that is the machlokes. The machlokes is where the wall was. That is where the that is where the path is. In other words, so basically there's a dispute as to, right, where this wall was, and therefore the Rabbim say that the wall used to be in a path, and therefore this path is now considered to be a Rishus Harabim. And according to the Chachamim, that no, since the guy said no, this is where my wall was, never was a path there, therefore the Chachamim would say it's pater. Veiboy sema, or you can say, but see, there Rishus Harabim kamiflagi. Maybe the machlokas over here is because we have there's another space in addition to Rishus Harabim, Rishus Yachid, Karmelis. There's also a thing called Tzidi Rishus Harabim, right? Like the strips of land along the Rishus Harabim. People just sort of pull over and fix their loads. That was called the sides that Tzidi Rishus Harabim. The Rabbi Eliezer Saver Tzidi Rishus Harabim Dami. The Rabbi Eliezer holds that the sides of Rosh Hashanah are considered like Rosh Hashanah, and therefore one carrying into it, and that's where the broken fence is, and therefore that one would be chayvo there. Rabbanan Sabri say Rosh Hashanah la Rosh Hashanah damin. The Chacham hold that no, that the sides of Rosh Hashanah are not considered Rosh Hashanah, and therefore one who carries from Tzidei Rosh Hashanah into Rosh Hashanah, right, would be pater. Or from there into Rosh Hashanah would also be pater, because it's not considered to be a private or a public area. Rather, it's just considered to be the sides of the Rosh Hashanah. So, if that's the case, so why did they choose a case to have their machlokas in a case of where there was a fence, right, and then there was basically a dispute, or it's along the side, and therefore, if it's along the side, and if it's along the side. Right. So why in this case, right? Now, that was the question: is why did you choose a case to say we're talking about a broken fence, and that fence over there is Tzidei Shizrabim? Just talk about a case, nothing to do with the Rosh Hashanah. No fence, no other yard, nothing that fell down. Just you have Rosh Hashanah and you have the sides of Rosh Hashanah, and over there is a machlokes whether that area is considered to be a Rosh Hashanah or not. Why they have to bring in a specific case of where there was once a fence there, it fell down. Now that is the side of Rosh Hashanah. So if we just had a regular case of the sides of a public way, when would he say that? When would the Chachamim argue with Rabbi Eliezer? Hanimili heicha deika chifufi, right? Only when there was basically things that were blocking. If there were things that were blocking, because normally Tzidei Rosh Hashanah is off the side of the road, and there's areas. Basically, there's like a curb, right? It's like a curb that you can't go on the sides. It's like on a sidewalk. So therefore, since the wagons don't go up onto the curb because it's blocked off by the height of they don't go on the sidewalk because of the height of the curb. So therefore, that case, the Chachamim say it's not a Rosh Hashanah. But if it was a fence there, right, you don't need any blockers or any curb to protect a fence or a wall, because the wall is the fence, right? So if the wall fell down, then there's no longer a Rosh Hashanah. And if there's no longer a Rosh Hashanah, so this Tzidei Rosh Hashanah might be considered to be more of a Rosh Hashanah because there is no bearer anymore. So maybe you'd say that they would agree, right? If there was nothing blocking, and therefore, since there's nothing basically blocking the area of where the mechitza once stood, maybe that area is considered to be Rosh Hashanah. So Kamash Malon, that this area is still considered to be a Tzidei Rosh Hashanah and not a Rosh Hashanah itself. So Gemara says, but if you look at the machlokes, right? So we're talking about not necessarily the case of the path. We're talking about to go ahead and carry into this entire chutzner. We're not just talking about the place of the wall, right? If you look at the Mishnah, we're talking about the entire chutzner. So how could you say the dispute is where the wall was, and that's the path of where the people we're talking about that area? If it seems that we're talking about the entire chutzner is now considered to be a Rosh Hashanah according to Rabbi Eliezer. So Gemara answers, "Adi the Amar Rabbanan b'toicha, Amar Ihu Nami b'toicha." So since the Rabbanan, who are referring to that no area, and certainly not on the inside, but even the edges, right, you're putter from. So therefore, the Rabbi Eliezer chose the same case as the Rabbanan to also talk about. Says, no, you are chayav for such a case, but he did not mean that the area inside the chutzner is Rosh Hashanah, only the area where the wall was, because that is where the path of the rabbim go. For Rabbanan, and according to Rabbi Eliezer, in Rabbanan, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Tzedei Rosh Hashanah u'mahajir le'inu b'teicha. So according to the Rabbanan, right? So they could say that which we say, you're talking about Tzidei Rosh Hashanah, right? They said to him that no, that is even the teicha, right? So in other words, they say to him, not only the inside, right, even on the outside. So if you were talking about only the area where the fence was, so why even mention miteicha, right? Because if you look at the Mishnah, the lashon of the Mishnah is chatzah shnei b'tzeh l'shus harabim hamachnis, right? Mitaycha l'shus yachid, right? One who takes it from there to Rosh Yachid. So it seems to be he's talking about specifically about Rosh Yachid. So hachi kamar le Rabbanan Rabbi Eliezer. This is what Rabbanan said to Rabbi Eliezer. Mi lo ka maydisli heicha the tilto mitaycha l'shus harabim, Rosh Hashanah, right? Do you not agree? Right, that if you go ahead and carry from a chatzir to Rosh Hashanah, and from Rosh Hashanah to it, to pater mipnei shiki karmelis, right? So do you not agree? In other words, that in a case of when you carry from the inside to Rosh Hashanah, right, because the inside of the chatzir is not considered to be Rosh Hashanah anymore, All right. So he says, such a case to be pater because it's a karmelis. So to the sides, there's no difference. In other words, they hold that not only on the inside, in other words, they comment, and not only on the inside to the Rishus Harabim, you are pater, but even the sides of where the wall was, at Tzidei Rishus Harabim, you're also pater. No, the difference between it, there is actually a difference between Misaycha and the area of the fence, because in the inside of the chutz there, no one travels. So since no one travels there, that's a karmos, and that you're right, you would be chai for. But the area where the rabbin would travel, that is considered to be like a rishus harabim, and therefore that's the machlokes. So according to this understanding of the machlokes, everybody agrees, even Rabbi Eliezer agrees that in the inside you're pater from, right? And Rabbi Eliezer really only mentioned the area of where the breach is. So why are they talking about the inside? If the inside, even Rabbi Eliezer agrees is pater, because the Rabbanim were trying to prove their point and saying, just like the inside of the chatzir you're pater to carry to another area, so too by the area of the fence, usually you're pater, right? So, and that Rabbi Eliezer says, no. The area in the inside, yes, you're pater, but Tzidei Rishus Harabim, that is the machlokes. So that is understanding the machlokes. So everyone agrees if you have a yard next to a Rishus Harabim, that the yard itself is pater. It's not considered to be a Rishus Harabim anymore, or ever, right? Because it was once a Rishus Yachid. It's not considered to be Rishus Harabim. The only machlokes, and everyone agrees it's like a karmelis, the only machlokes is the area of the fence, right? Chachamim hold that the area of the fence, people now travel, it doesn't make a difference. It's still considered to be a karmelis, right? Because it's not the normal part of the rabbim. And Rabbi Ezra holds, I know, since the rabbim travel there, or since it's a Tzidei Rishus Harabim, or they once upon a time had it, therefore one would be chayv is considered to be a public way. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, if you have a chatzir which is broken, right, which is breached or broken open, right, the chatzir to Rishus Harabim on two sides. So you basically imagine you have four sides of a chatzir, and north, south, east, west, and basically the north and south walls fall down. And so too, so excuse me, so to a house whose walls fell down from two sides, so to a mavui, which had beams or lechi on two parallel sides, and both those came down. Mutarim b'yisa Shabbos v'yasur liyasi lavo. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rabbi Yehuda, since Shabbos started and you had four walls and then two of them came down in the middle, you can go ahead and still continue to carry even on Shabbos, because since once it started to be mutter, then it was mutter, right? So he says, but however, it's usher in next Shabbos. If you don't fix it, the next Shabbos is usher. So this Shabbos is okay because this Shabbos started and it was mutter, but next Shabbos, tough luck. You got to go ahead and fix it. And Rabbi Yosi Amir, mutar l'yasa Shabbos, mutar l'yasi lavo. V'im asur l'yasi lavo, asur l'yasi Shabbos. If it's mutter this Shabbos, then it's going to be mutter next Shabbos, which is not really the case. He's talking really about a case that if it's going to be mutter next Shabbos, then it's also mutter this Shabbos. So since next Shabbos, everyone agrees that if you only have two walls, because you lost two of your walls, fell down, you're not going to be able to carry there. So to this Shabbos, right? So in other words, we saw this concept, Keva Hutra does not apply according to Rabbi Yossi, because he holds that no. If I can't use it next Shabbos, then I can't use it this Shabbos. Even though Shabbos started, tough luck. So Rabbi Yossi says, once it starts, you can't go ahead and carry. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no, since Shabbos started, it would be okay. So now the Gemara wants to know, what kind of break are we talking about? So b'maya skina, right? So if we're talking about, let's say this hole in the wall is now less than 10, right? If, let's say we had one wall that was broken down, right? So one wall and you have less than 10 amos. So as we've seen till now, if you have a Rishus HaYachid and you have a fence, and the fence broke anywhere less than 10 amos. So 10 amos, we just call it a doorway, right? You have a doorway into a private chutzner as long as it's not more than 10 amos, right? If you more than 10 amos, then you don't have a wall. If it's less than 10 amos, it's called a Pesach. So if we're talking about less than 10 amos, right, and one is one side you have a Pesach. So if you have two walls that both broke 9 amos, just say you have 2 Pesachim to the Chatzir, and it should be considered to be walled, right? If one less than 9, right, or less than 10, excuse me, is a Pesach, so is 2. So then why was there a problem? So Ella, B'yeser miyeser. Okay, rather we must be talking about a case where the break in the wall was 15 amos, something more than 10 amos, right? So, and therefore it's no longer considered to be a Pesach, it's now considered to be a breach in the wall. So if that's the case, if you have a broken wall, why do you need 2 cases? Why do you need 2 sides, right? Just have a case of one wall broke more than 10 amos, and that's the case we're talking about. Why do you need 2 sides? So Amar Rav, so now we have 2 terutzim, we're going to have Rav and Shmuel. So Amar Rav, L'yelom b'yeser. Really, we're talking about a case of where it's less than 10 amos, right? It's 10 amos or less, it's considered to be a Pesach, right? Turn the page. Ukagon shenifritza b'keren zavis. We're talking about a case of that it was basically broken, right, in a corner, right? It was broken in a corner, and therefore the pischa b'keren zavis lo avdinchi, because if you have, really it's a one breach, right? But it's one breach in the corner, and people don't make a Pesach in the corner, right? You don't have, right, a corner. Here's a picture here, right? People don't make an entranceway into a chatzir when you have, right, in a corner, right? That's not normal. So therefore, that's considered. So therefore, less than 10 is a Pesach. It's not a Pesach if it's in the corner. Corner is not normally a Pesach, and therefore it's considered to be broken on 2 sides. It doesn't qualify as a Pesach. If it doesn't qualify as a Pesach, it's considered to be breached, and therefore you lose your walls. Fine.
Yoel, just really quick. Who says that you have to have any type of wall by a courtyard? Meaning, let's say you have a courtyard it's just not walled off.
No, we're talking about a chatzir, right? So we're talking about a chatzir shenifritza. So a definition of a chatzir is something that is enclosed, right?
Okay.
You can't.
All right, I didn't know. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So since it's an enclosed, so therefore you have to have a full enclosure, right? A full enclosure around your chatzir, right? And whether or not the chatzir is owned by a single private individual, right, or it's the chatzir is owned by multiple people who have an eruv in that chatzir, but once the wall is down,
that's the definition of a chatzir, is it has walls. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Otherwise, it's either a karfe for a bika, or it depends on the size. Fine. And then we said, not only by chatzar, so to a house, right? If it has 2 broken walls. So once again, so what's the reason? I understand. If you have one side, so there's a halacha that if you have one, let's say you have a house, and it's 3 sides here, right? Just looking from on top, right? And the 4th side is open. So, and it's roofed, right? So you say, P-tikra yerdesaisim, the edge of the house, halachically, is now a wall. So now basically you have 4 walls because you have the 3 actual physical walls. And since you have the roof go to the edge of the other side, we say the edge of the roof goes down. So now you have, so if you had one side of a house broken, it's nothing because P-tikra yerdesaisim, even if it's larger than 10, right? So you just say the edge of the house goes down. So we're going to ask Mishtei Ruchas Nami Lema Pi Tikra Yoy V'Seisim. Why don't we talk about a case where it was Pi Tikra Yoy V'Seisim? They both sides, the roof comes down, and therefore it's considered to be you have 4 walls. So Amri Debei Rav Mishmei Rav Kigoyin Shenifritz V'Keren Zavus, right? So he said over here the Karab Achson Delek Lamer Pi Tikra Yoy V'Seisim. We're talking about a case where it was broken basically in the corner, right? And since it was broken in the corner, and the house basically, right, is at an angle, and you don't say P-Tig or Yovisaisim. So we're talking about actually it was basically a breach in the house in the corner, right? So that's the 2 sides. And since the roof is Ba'alchson, it's slanted, you have a slanted roof, you don't say slanted roof over there, and P-Tig or Yovisaisim, right? So here's a picture, right? Those are the article. Right, slanted roof there, and therefore you don't say Peter of a and therefore in this case, you would not be able to say it. Fine. Now, Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel would say, Afilu b'yeser miyeser. He says, no, we're talking about a case. Now he's going back what we said earlier. Afilu b'yeser miyeser. So we're talking about even the break in the fence is even more than 10 amos. Remember earlier we had a machlokas. Which one is it? If it's less than 10, it should be just psachim. So Rav answered, yeah, we're talking about a case if in the corner people don't make in a corner. So Shmuel says even more than 10. So if it's more than 10, why do you need two? All you need is one breach in the fence, right? You only need one broken fence and not two. So the Gemara answers mishum bias, right? Because of the case of the house. So Gemara says, what do you mean because of the case? So bias gufei tikshe. I understand. So ask in the house. So in the house itself, if you have one, you say pitigr yard v'seisem. Mishtei ruchas nami, you name a pitigr yard v'seisem. If you have two walls that are broken, you can say that the roof is pitigr yard v'seisem. And furthermore, right, it doesn't make sense why in the case of the bias you have two sides, because you can just say pitigr yard v'seisem, and therefore the two walls are both filled by halachic walls of the extension or the extending the roof down to the ground. The and furthermore, the Shmuel, right? Does he say pitigr v'seisem? If you have an open gazebo or some sort of pavilion or whatever out in the bika, right? Imagine like like we mentioned before, like in the forest preserves, right? You have those those roofed areas, right? So Rav Omar Mutal Taltabas Bekulo Shmuel Omar Emataltan Ella Barba Amos. So Rav says you're allowed to go ahead and carry underneath it because you say pitigr you says around four sides, and Shmuel says you cannot carry it only Dal Amos, right? Because you don't say pitigr you says him. So first of all, Gemara says no. Haloi kasher ki lesle arba b'shalosh isle. When does Shmuel say that you don't say pitigr you says him? That's on all four sides. But for three sides or less, you would say pitigr you says him. So back in our case, if you have two sides which are broken, you can't say pitigr you says him in a case of two walls. So once again, the question is, according to Shmuel, right, why isn't pitigr you says him, right? According to Rav answered it by saying we're talking about in the corner with a slanted roof. But Shmuel, what's he going to say? So it's a kasha on Shmuel. So okay, he doesn't hold four, but he holds three or less. So why doesn't it say pitigr you says him in the two sides? So Kadami Be Rav Mishmei the Rav, like it was they said in the name of Rav, Kagoin Shenifras Bekaren Zavis, the Kira Be'achzon. So over here, referring to a case when the house was in the corner and the roof was planted. Hakinami. So over here, Kagoin Shenifras Bekaren Zavis, the Kerese Barba, right? In other words, there was basically four case. It was basically broken in the corner, but there was four areas where you had to say pitigr you says him, right? So if you look at actually the picture in Rashi, right, and most of you guys have a picture in Rashi. Sometimes some of the older Gemaras have different pictures, but you see over there the way it was cut. It wasn't just like a square, like 1, 2, right? The roof is basically creates four sides, right? If you have to go ahead and measure these distance, you have to it goes this way. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's four areas you have to say pitigr you says him, and that is four areas. Just like we said before, you don't say on all four sides, even if it's only a corner, but the corner is not just two sides, right? The corner is here, 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 like that, right? That's four, right? So that would be you would have to apply pitigr you says him 4 times, and according to Shmuel, you do not apply pitigr you says him 4 times. And Shmuel lo amar karav achzon lo yaktani. Shmuel doesn't say like they taught in the Yeshiva of Rav. Why? Because it doesn't mention anywhere in our Mishnah we're talking about a slanted roof. So a slanted roof, who says we're talking about a slanted roof? So we can't have a scenario of a slanted roof. If Rav lo amar Shmuel, and why does Rav not say like Shmuel? We're talking about basically where it's the house is broken in the corner, but the roof has 4 edges, and where you have to say pitigr you says him. Because like we said before, imkein havdei achsadra would be like the same halacha as we had in the case of achsadra, right? That open pavilion, like in a forest preserve. And Rav says you can't apply pitigr you says him. So according to Shmuel, we have to have a case of where there's 4 edges of the pitigr you says him in the corner, and therefore you don't say that, and that's the reason why the house, why it's no good. And according to Shmuel, and according to Rav, it's because the roof is slanted. And if the roof is slanted, then you never say pitigr you says him. Pitigr you says him is only with a flat roof. But if it's a slanted roof, right, then that doesn't work. And the Itamar, as mentioned, or the achsadra bika, if you have an open achsadra out in a bika in a field, Rav says you can carry throughout because he said pitigr you says him on 4 sides, And Shmuel says, no, you can only carry up to 4 amos. Rav because he holds, he say Pitigar on all 4 sides. He says no, because you can only get 4 amos because we do not go ahead and say Pitigar in a case of 4 sides. Now, so we're talking about when we're talking about a case of 10, right? In this case of we're just of the Achsadra. B'yeser, if it's less than 10, kuli amalei pligi. So ki pligi b'yeser miyeser. We're only talking about where the size of this pavilion, right? In this, this forest preserve case, right? Only we're talking about if the sides are more than 10 amos. But if each side, let's say, is 9 amos, then you would say it. So they're only talking about when it's more. That's the case where Shmuel argues. And some say b'yeser kuli amalei pligi. If it's more than 10 amos each side, right? Like the ones in the forest preserve, they're very large, right? No one argues. Everyone agrees since they're so large, the sides, you don't even, Rav would say, we don't say Pitigar of a around 4 sides, and you can't carry it, but only underneath it, only Dal Amos. Keep Pligi V'Yasser, they're only talking about a case of when it's up to 10 Amos. Dam Rav Yehuda, which just get a couple lines down, and now which Rav Yehuda says, Kaira Bi'arba Mater B'churva, if you have a beam, right, which is 4 tfachim, right, it can be Mater B'churva, right? What does that mean? In other words, you have ruins or churva, right? That basically, is destroyed. You don't have the roof there, some walls, but you have a beam that goes across, which is 4 tefachim wide. So Rav Nachman Amar Kaira Arba Mati B'Mayim. You can go ahead and that area underneath the beam, you can go ahead and carry water. In other words, you can say that basically that underneath this beam, since it's wide enough, it's like it's enclosed all the sides. So Mani, whose opinion is this? According to the ones who said that if it's more than, if it's less than 10, everyone agrees. So we can talk about this case of where the beam is not longer than 10 amos. Right, and obviously the width is, let's say, 4 tefachim. So therefore, everybody agrees in a case of where we have all 4 sides are less than daled amos. Everybody agrees that would be that's what the called. That would be according to everybody, because according to everybody, if all you can, even Shmuel would agree that you would say pitikra yovaseisim if all 4 sides are 10 amos or left. And lahach lishon da marta b'yasuk, but according to the opinion who held that even if it was more than 10, even if it according to the opinion who held that up to 10 they don't argue, it's 10 or more, then it'll be divrei kol, it had to be less than 10. And according to the opinion who holds that if they argue, even if they argue less than 10, in other words, Shmuel says you can't, even if it's the sides are less than 10 amos, you still can't carry into it. So in that case, then we only say it's like Rab, because according to Shmuel, even if the sides are less than 10 amos, you would not be able to carry. So therefore, underneath this beam, you would not be able to go ahead and draw water, because you have to say Pitigar Yavaseisim. And even though one side is only 4 tefachim, it's too bad. Shmuel never says Pitigar Yavaseisim on 4 sides. But according to this Lishna, Rav, he would be the one who says, no, since it's less than 10 amos, you would be able to go ahead and carry underneath it. And we will stop over here. Everyone have a wonderful day and enjoy the nice fall or autumn.
Or